The massive alien ships appeared without warning, dropping out of hyperspace like falling stars made of metal and death. Earth's orbital sensors screamed alerts as the readings poured in 50,000 vessels of impossible size, their smallest destroyers dwarfing humanity's largest battleships. The alien fleet spread across the void like a plague of locusts, blotting out the stars with their dark hulls. Admiral Beth Rodriguez felt her stomach drop as she watched the tactical display from Earth Defense Command. 200 ships was all humanity could muster against this nightmare. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the emergency communication channel that would alert every world leader on the planet. The numbers were so overwhelming that her tactical computer kept recalculating, as if refusing to believe what it was seeing. The alien flagship hung in space like a metallic moon, its surface covered in weapon batteries that could glass entire continents. Smaller vessels swarmed around it in perfect formation, their sleek designs suggesting technology centuries beyond human understanding. The sight made every person in the command center fall silent, their faces pale with the realization that humanity had just met something far beyond their ability to fight. Then the message came, broadcast on every frequency humans had ever used. The voice was cold and mechanical, translated by systems that seemed to understand human language better than humans themselves. Primitive species of the third planet, you have been selected for incorporation into the Galactic Dominion. You will surrender all military assets and prepare for processing within 72 hours. Resistance will result in total extinction. The transmission included holographic images of other worlds that had defied the Dominion. Burning cities, empty planets stripped of all life, entire civilizations reduced to scattered atoms floating. In space, the message was clear: submit or die. There would be no negotiation, no mercy, no third option. The Dominion had conquered 847 worlds using this same approach, and they saw no reason to change their methods now. Captain Tom Bradley watched the alien fleet from his destroyer's bridge, knowing his railguns and fusion torpedoes were about as useful as throwing rocks at a hurricane. His crew worked at their stations with grim determination, following procedures they all knew were meaningless. The newest weapons humanity had developed were still decades behind what these aliens probably considered obsolete technology. The first demonstration of alien power came 12 hours after their arrival. Mars Research Station Omega, home to 15,000 scientists and their families, simply vanished in a pulse of green light. No explosion, no debris field, just empty. Space where a thriving colony had existed moments before. The aliens had erased it from existence with the casual ease of someone deleting a file from a computer. President Maria Santos called an emergency session of the Global Council, but everyone already knew what they would discuss. The math was simple and brutal. Humanity's entire military force could not scratch the paint on even one of those alien dreadnoughts. Earth's combined nuclear arsenal might damage a single enemy ship if they were lucky. The choice was surrender or watch their species burn. Admiral Rodriguez received constant updates from observation posts throughout the solar system. The alien fleet moved with mechanical precision, positioning themselves around Earth like hunters, surrounding wounded prey. They showed no interest in communication beyond their initial ultimatum. They had done this before hundreds of times, and they expected the same result they always achieved. The public remained largely unaware of the true scale of the threat. News reports spoke of first contact and diplomatic opportunities, while military leaders quietly prepared for the end of human independence. Secret bunkers filled with government officials and their families. Though everyone knew such hiding places would be meaningless if the aliens decided to sterilize the planet. Captain Bradley's communications officer intercepted fragments of alien transmissions, their automated systems casually discussing humanity like farmers planning to harvest grain. The aliens referred to humans as suitable biological units, and debated the most efficient methods for processing Earth's population into a workforce. They spoke of breaking human will through selective extermination and conditioning programs. Refined through centuries of practice, The countdown timer in Earth Defense Command showed 55 hours remaining. Admiral Rodriguez found herself staring at the tactical display, searching for any weakness in the alien formation, any possible strategy that might give humanity a fighting chance. But the numbers remained unchanged. 200 human ships against 50,000 alien vessels, primitive weapons against incomprehensible technology. Emergency sessions convened in every major capital as world leaders faced the impossible choice. Some argued for resistance despite the odds, believing that dying free was better than living as slaves. Others pushed for immediate surrender, hoping that cooperation might earn humanity better treatment under alien rule. The debates grew heated as precious hours ticked away. The alien fleet maintained perfect silence except for their periodic rebroadcasts of the surrender demand. They showed no impatience, no urgency, nothing that suggested they viewed humanity as anything more than another routine conquest. Their ships hung in space like vultures waiting for carrion. Confident in their overwhelming superiority, Tom Bradley received sealed orders to fall back to Luna, base with the rest of the surface fleet. The retreat felt like admitting defeat before the battle even began, but strategic doctrine demanded preserving what forces they could for humanity's final stand. His crew prepared their ship for the journey with mechanical efficiency, their faces showing the strain of knowing they were probably living their last free days. As the deadline approached, alien shuttles began deploying from the massive fleet, taking positions around Earth's major population centers. The invasion force was getting ready to land, confident that humanity would choose survival over destruction. The ultimatum played on every screen and speaker across the planet: surrender within 72 hours or face extinction. The aliens had never met a species foolish enough to choose death over servitude, and they expected Earth to follow the same pattern as every world before it. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Kate Thompson watched the alien fleet through sensors that officially did not exist. The Mariana Deep Station stretched for kilometers under the crushing darkness of the deepest trench on Earth, its massive bulk hidden from every form of detection humanity had ever encountered. For 100 years, this facility had been preparing for exactly this moment. The elevator descended through 30 kilometers of reinforced tunnel, carrying Captain Tom Bradley deeper than any human facility was supposed to reach. His security clearance had been updated without explanation, granting him access to levels of classification he never knew existed. The message that summoned him here contained only coordinates and a single phrase: Project Nightfall requires your immediate attention. Kate Thompson had been legally dead for 15 years, killed in a shuttle accident that left no recoverable remains. The funeral had been genuine, attended by family and friends who still mourned her loss. A death was sometimes a necessary fiction in her line of work, and the woman who now commanded humanity's greatest secret had gladly sacrificed her old life for this purpose. The project required absolute commitment from those who served it. The hidden database in Tom's destroyer had revealed itself during a routine system check, appearing like a ghost in the machine. Files that should not exist displayed technical specifications for weapons that seemed like science fiction, ship designs that defied conventional physics, and personnel records for people who had died decades ago. The most disturbing discovery was his own name on a recruitment list dated 3 years before his birth. Project Nightfall had begun in 2157, when humanity first detected alien radio signals from the Vega system. While politicians celebrated the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence, a small group of military leaders quietly acknowledged a terrifying truth: if aliens could send signals across space, they could also send warships. The public space program became a cover for the most ambitious military buildup in human history. The tour of Mariana Deep Station left Tom speechless as he walked through hangar bays that could have swallowed entire cities. Sleek black ships filled the cavernous spaces, their hulls absorbing light and sensor scans with technology that made conventional stealth systems look primitive. Each vessel bore no markings, no identification numbers, nothing that could trace them back to Earth if they were ever discovered. Admiral Thompson explained the deception with clinical precision. Earth's surface fleet was always meant to appear weak and outdated, a deliberate misdirection to convince potential enemies that humanity posed no threat. Every ship Tom had ever served on was carefully designed to look primitive, while concealing sensors that could penetrate alien, stealth systems, and weapons that could crack planets in half. The personnel files revealed the true scope of the conspiracy. Thousands of Earth's best military officers, scientists, and engineers had officially died in accidents, diseases, and combat operations over the past century. Their deaths were carefully staged, their bodies cremated or lost at sea, while the living individuals took new identities and joined the shadow fleet that now filled hidden bases throughout the solar system. Kate showed Tom the manufacturing facilities where automated systems had been building warships for 100 years, asteroid mining operations that appeared to extract metals for civilian use were actually feeding raw materials into construction yards that existed in the empty spaces between worlds. The scale of the deception was staggering. Humanity had built a military force that surpassed anything in known space while maintaining the appearance of a backward, isolated species. The quantum fold technology that powered the hidden fleet came from crashed alien probes that had been visiting Earth for centuries. Each derelict vessel provided new insights into faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and defensive systems that the Dominion considered standard equipment. Human scientists had reverse-engineered and improved upon alien technology while carefully avoiding any advancement that might reveal their true capabilities. Tom learned that his own career had been carefully managed by project handlers. Every assignment, every promotion, every combat experience had been designed to prepare him for this moment. His psychological profile indicated the right combination of loyalty, intelligence, and moral flexibility needed for humanity's shadow war. The surface fleet had been as much a training ground as a decoy. The hidden bases extended far beyond Earth, scattered across the solar system in locations that appeared to be ordinary scientific outposts. Europa Research Station housed a fleet of deep space interceptors. The Titan colony was actually a massive weapons testing facility. Even the International Space Station contained concealed defense systems that could obliterate attacking ships. Before their crews realized what was happening, Admiral Thompson revealed the true purpose of humanity's seemingly peaceful expansion into space. Every colony ship that left Earth carried hidden military personnel and equipment. Mars was not just a research outpost but a heavily fortified military base. The asteroid belt mining operations were cover for a network of automated defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. Humanity had been preparing for war while pretending to pursue peace. The most shocking revelation came when Kate showed Tom the alien monitoring stations hidden throughout Dominion space. For decades, human agents had been infiltrating alien worlds, learning their languages, studying their technology, and mapping their military capabilities. The Dominion's arrival at Earth had been tracked for years, their battle plans intercepted and analyzed by intelligence operatives they never suspected existed. Project Nightfall had identified the Dominion's greatest weakness, their absolute confidence in technological superiority. They never bothered to thoroughly scout primitive worlds, assuming that any species without faster-than-light travel posed no threat. This arrogance had allowed humanity to observe their tactics, study their equipment, and develop countermeasures for every weapon in their arsenal. The hidden fleet consisted of 10,000 ships, ranging from single-seat fighters to massive dreadnoughts that could crack moons in half. Each vessel was crewed by volunteers who had accepted legal death in exchange for the chance to defend humanity from threats the public could never imagine. They had trained in absolute secrecy, waiting in the darkness between stars for the day when Earth would need them most. As the alien ultimatum entered its final day, Admiral Thompson prepared to reveal humanity's true nature to the galaxy. The Dominion expected to face a few hundred primitive ships with obsolete weapons. Instead, they would encounter the product of a century of preparation, deception, and technological advancement. The hunters were about to discover they had chosen the wrong prey. The surrender broadcast went out exactly on schedule. transmitted from every human vessel and communication array in the solar system. Admiral Beth Rodriguez delivered the message with perfect defeat in her voice, announcing humanity's unconditional submission to the Galactic Dominion. Earth's military forces powered down their weapons, lowered their shields, and requested instructions for the peaceful transfer of authority to their new alien masters. Captain Tom Bradley felt his heart racing as he followed the carefully rehearsed script, ordering his crew to deactivate their ship's weapons and prepare for Dominion inspection. His tactical officer acknowledged the command with practiced resignation while secretly arming systems that had been hidden in the destroyer's hull for 20 years. Every person on the bridge knew they were actors in humanity's greatest deception. But their performances had to be flawless. The Dominion fleet responded with mechanical efficiency, their massive ships moving into Earth's orbital space like wolves approaching a wounded deer. Landing craft deployed from the alien dreadnoughts, filled with soldiers ready to begin the occupation of humanity's homeworld. The invaders showed no caution, no concern for potential resistance. They had done this hundreds of times before. And humans were just another primitive species awaiting processing. Commander Zeth of the Dominion's Third Fleet observed the human surrender with satisfaction. The bipedal mammals had chosen survival over pointless resistance, as intelligent species usually did when faced with overwhelming force. His tactical screens showed human vessels drifting powerless in space, their crude weapons offline and their primitive shields deactivated. The conquest would be completed within hours. Tom received the activation code through a quantum channel that penetrated every human vessel simultaneously. The phrase arrived in his neural implant, a device he had not known existed until yesterday, speaking words that would change everything. "The night is darkest before the dawn," the synthetic voice whispered, triggering systems that had waited decades for this moment. The transformation began with a barely audible hum as hidden power cores came online throughout Tom's destroyer. Hull plates shifted and reconfigured, revealing weapon ports that had been concealed since the ship's construction. Stealth generators activated, bending light and sensor beams around the vessel's hull. In seconds, the primitive human warship became something the Dominion had never encountered before across the solar system. Similar transformations occurred as humanity's true nature revealed itself. Mining ships shed their industrial disguises to become heavily armed cruisers. Space stations opened concealed hangar bays and launched fighters that defied known physics. The moon itself cracked open along hidden seams, releasing swarms of attack craft that had been waiting in underground caverns for nearly a century. The first Dominion casualties came from weapons they never saw coming. Human ships that had appeared defenseless moments before suddenly unleashed coherent energy beams that sliced through alien armor like paper. Quantum torpedoes materialized inside enemy hulls, their warheads designed to disrupt the molecular bonds holding alien ships together. The primitive prey had become apex predators in the space of a heartbeat. Admiral Thompson watched the initial engagement from her command center beneath the Pacific, monitoring tactical displays that showed the Dominion's growing confusion. The aliens had never encountered stealth technology advanced enough to hide entire fleets, weapons that could ignore their shields or defensive systems that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Their overwhelming numerical advantage was becoming meaningless against enemies they could not detect or effectively target. Tom's crew worked with rehearsed precision as their ship engaged 3 Dominion destroyers simultaneously. The enemy vessels fired everything they had at his position, but their targeting systems could not lock onto a ship that existed partially outside normal space. Meanwhile, human weapons reached through dimensional barriers to strike vital systems inside alien hulls, causing catastrophic damage that should have been impossible. The Dominion commanders quickly realized they faced technology far beyond their understanding. Emergency transmissions flooded their communication networks as ship after ship reported impossible attacks from invisible enemies. The humans who had seemed so primitive minutes before were systematically destroying the Third Fleet with weapons that their science claimed could not exist. Europa Base revealed its true purpose as massive defensive platforms rose from beneath the ice. their primary weapons designed to crack battle moons in half. The mining colony that had appeared to be humanity's furthest expansion was actually a fortress. Vat had been planning this moment for 50 years. Streams of exotic particles lanced across space, reducing Dominion capital ships to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. The asteroid belt came alive with hidden installations as defense platforms that had masqueraded as mining equipment began engaging the alien fleet. Automated systems that had been patiently extracting metals for decades revealed themselves as the most sophisticated weapons network ever constructed. Thousands of concealed missile launchers turned the space between Mars and Jupiter into a killing field that no Dominion ship could cross. Admiral Rodriguez coordinated the surface fleet's assault while maintaining her disguise as a defeated commander. Her ships appeared to drift helplessly while they're concealed. Weapons systematically eliminated. Alien vessels that ventured too close to Earth. The performance had to be perfect. The Dominion needed to believe they were winning until the moment. Their entire fleet was destroyed. The psychological impact on Dominion forces was devastating as they realized their absolute technological superiority had been an illusion. Species they had dismissed as primitive cave dwellers were wielding weapons that made their own arsenal seem like stone tools. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were being systematically exterminated by prey they had never bothered to properly study. Tom's tactical display showed the results of humanity's century-long deception. Dominion ships fled in every direction, but hidden defense networks throughout the solar system ensured that none would escape to warn their empire. The aliens who had demanded Earth's surrender were learning that humanity's true strength lay not in advanced technology but in patient planning and absolute commitment to species survival. The final phase of the deception required perfect timing as Admiral Thompson prepared to reveal the dark Armada that had been waiting in the void beyond Pluto. 10,000 ships that officially did not exist were about to emerge from quantum fold space, carrying weapons that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. The Dominion had expected to conquer primitive humans, but they were about to face the most dangerous predators the universe had ever produced. Reality tore open like fabric as the first Dark Fleet vessels materialized from quantum fold space, their black hulls absorbing every form of radiation and sensor sweep the Dominion could generate. The massive ships appeared without warning around. The alien fleet, having traveled through dimensions that conventional physics claimed were impossible to access. What had seemed like empty space suddenly filled with humanity's true military might. The Dominion's tactical officers screamed warnings as their sensors detected gravitational distortions that preceded the arrival of each human vessel. Ships, longer than their own dreadnoughts, emerged from nowhere, their hulls covered in weapon systems that defied classification. The aliens had never encountered stealth technology advanced enough to hide entire fleets in parallel dimensions, and their targeting computers struggled to lock onto enemies that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Admiral Kate Thompson's flagship materialized directly above the Dominion command vessel, a massive dreadnought called Leviathan that had been constructed in the hidden shipyards of Titan. The ship's quantum disruptors charged with a sound like reality, screaming, building energy levels that made nearby space shimmer with exotic particles. The weapon fired once, and the alien flagship simply ceased to exist. Its atoms scattered across several dimensions. Captain Tom Bradley led his squadron of surface ships, now revealed as advanced warships that had been hiding their true capabilities for decades in a coordinated assault against fleeing Dominion vessels. His destroyer's quantum engines allowed it to appear inside enemy formations, bypassing shields and armor by attacking from dimensions the aliens could not defend. The primitive humans were wielding weapons that violated every law of physics. The Dominion understood the battle was not a conflict but an execution as human ships phased through Dominion defenses like they were made of mist. Stealth bombers appeared inside alien hulls, having teleported past every barrier and countermeasure their targets possessed. Quantum torpedoes materialized in engine rooms and bridge sections, their exotic matter warheads designed to unravel the fundamental forces holding enemy ships together. Commander Zeth watched his fleet die around him as human. Weapons reached through dimensions to strike at systems that should have been completely protected. His shields, armor, and point defense networks were useless against attacks that originated from inside his own ship. The thermal lance that appeared in his command center ignored every physical law he had ever learned, reducing his bridge crew to superheated plasma before he could even register what was happening. The Dominion's numerical advantage became meaningless, as human ships demonstrated mobility that seemed to mock the concept of distance. Dark fleet vessels appeared anywhere they chose, striking with weapons that could disassemble matter at the subatomic level. 10,000 alien ships found themselves outnumbered by enemies that could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, each one capable of destroying entire battle groups with single shots. Tom's communications officer intercepted the aliens' final desperate transmissions as they realized the scope of their mistake. The Dominion commanders spoke of impossible technology and unprecedented tactical doctrine, their voices filled with the terror of predators who had suddenly become prey. They begged for mercy from species they had dismissed as primitive, offering tribute and territory in exchange for their lives. The quantum fold generators that powered the dark fleet allowed human vessels to attack from angles that did not exist in normal space. Dominion ships found themselves under fire from weapons that seemed to materialize from thin air, their targeting systems unable to track enemies that moved through dimensions their science claimed were purely theoretical. The technological gap between the species was far greater than anyone had imagined, but not in the direction the aliens had expected. Admiral Thompson coordinated the slaughter from her command center, watching as tactical displays showed the systematic destruction of every Dominion vessel in the solar system. The aliens had entered human space with 50,000 ships, confident in their absolute superiority. None would leave to report what they had discovered. The Dark Armada had waited a century for this moment, and they would not waste the opportunity. To send a message to the galaxy, the most terrifying aspect of the human assault was its cold precision. The Dark Fleet did not fight with anger or hatred, but with the methodical efficiency of a species that had spent decades planning every detail of this engagement. Each shot was calculated for maximum psychological impact as well as physical destruction, designed to break enemy morale as thoroughly as their ships. The Dominion forces were not just being destroyed, they were being educated about the true nature of their supposed prey. Phase shift technology allowed human fighters to appear inside Dominion capital ships, their pilots trained to navigate spaces that existed between normal dimensions. The alien crews found themselves fighting battles inside their own vessels against enemies who could walk through walls and ignore every physical barrier. Internal security systems were useless against attackers who existed partially outside conventional reality, the asteroid belt's hidden weapon. Platforms revealed their full capabilities as streams of exotic particles reached across space to vaporize fleeing Dominion ships. Mining equipment that had operated peacefully for decades transformed into artillery pieces that could crack planets, their true purpose finally revealed. The peaceful expansion of humanity throughout the solar system had been preparation for the largest military ambush in galactic history. Tom watched his tactical display as the last Dominion vessels attempted to flee beyond the orbit of Neptune, their crews broadcasting surrender offers and pleas for mercy. The response came from Admiral Thompson herself, transmitted on all frequencies in perfect Dominion standard, a language that humans were not supposed to know. You offered our species slavery or extinction. We have chosen a third option. The final phase of the battle demonstrated technology that the Dominion had not believed possible. Human ships began appearing throughout their home territory, having traveled across the galaxy through quantum fold networks that had been secretly constructed over decades. The primitive species the aliens had come to conquer was already inside their borders, striking at targets hundreds of light years away with weapons that made distance irrelevant. The Dark Armada's emergence marked the beginning of a new galactic order as humanity revealed its true nature to the universe. The species that had appeared weak and isolated was actually the most dangerous predator the galaxy had ever produced, patient enough to spend a century preparing for war while maintaining the illusion of helplessness. The Dominion's empire was about to learn that underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. 6 months after the Sol System massacre, Admiral Kate Thompson stood before the assembled representatives of 12 alien species in what had once been the Dominion's capital city. The massive council chamber held delegates from civilizations that had spent centuries as either conquerors or slaves, now gathered to hear terms from the predators they had never seen coming. The balance of galactic power had shifted permanently, and every species in the room knew it. Captain Tom Bradley commanded a sector fleet of 200 dark ships, patrolling space that had belonged to the Dominion for over 1,000 years. His vessels moved through quantum fold networks that connected every major star system, allowing instant response to any threat across hundreds of light years. The alien worlds he protected still struggled to understand how humans had hidden such capabilities while appearing to be a primitive, isolated species. The revelation of humanity's true nature had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy as intelligence reports from the past century were re-examined. Dozens of species realized that humans had been walking among them for decades, learning their languages, studying their technology, and mapping their military capabilities. Trade delegations, scientific exchanges, and cultural missions had all been cover for the most sophisticated espionage operation in galactic history. Professor Elena Martinez addressed the Galactic Science Council from Earth's newest embassy on the former Dominion homeworld, explaining how human research had advanced beyond anything their textbooks described. The quantum fold technology that powered the Dark Fleet was based on theoretical physics that most species considered impossible. Humanity had not just reverse-engineered alien technology, they had improved upon it to create weapons that violated fundamental laws of nature. The former Dominion worlds faced a choice that their rulers had given to countless other species: submit or be destroyed. But humanity offered something the Dominion never had: genuine partnership instead of slavery. Species that joined the expanding human coalition retained their independence and culture, while contributing to a defensive alliance that could protect them from threats beyond imagination. Those who refused faced the same fate as their former masters. Admiral Thompson revealed the true scope of human expansion during her address to the surviving alien governments. Earth's colonies were not limited to the dozen worlds publicly acknowledged, but included thousands of hidden bases throughout the galaxy. Mining operations, research stations, and trading posts had been cover for military installations that could deploy Dark Fleet vessels anywhere in known space within hours. The psychological impact of humanity's deception was devastating to species that prided themselves on superior intelligence and technology. The creatures they had dismissed as primitive bipedal mammals had been conducting a century-long campaign of infiltration and preparation that made their own intelligence services look like amateurs. Every assumption about human capabilities had been deliberately planted. Misinformation designed to create exactly this moment. Tom's patrol fleet intercepted a group of Korthik raiders attempting to attack a former Dominion supply world, their traditional targets now under human protection. The engagement lasted less than 30 seconds as quantum disruptors reduced the entire raider fleet to scattered atoms. The message was clear: the Dark Armada's protection extended to any species willing to accept humanity's terms. And those terms were surprisingly generous compared to galactic norms. The integration of alien technology with human innovation had produced weapons that surpassed anything in the galaxy. Ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that ignored conventional defenses, and defensive systems that made their users effectively invulnerable to conventional attack. The species that had mocked human primitiveness now studied human military doctrine in their most prestigious academies. President Maria Santos announced from Earth that humanity would not repeat the Dominion's mistakes by ruling through fear and oppression. The human coalition offered membership to any species willing to contribute to galactic security and scientific advancement. Trade agreements replaced tribute demands, joint research projects replaced forced labor, and defensive alliances replaced military occupation. The galaxy was learning that humanity's true strength lay not in conquest but in cooperation. The former. Dominion military academies were converted into schools where alien officers learned human tactical doctrine and strategic thinking. The curriculum emphasized the importance of patience, long-term planning, and the ability to appear weak while growing strong. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, but their willingness to sacrifice individual glory for species. Survival, preparing for threats that might not arrive for generations. Admiral Rodriguez commanded Earth's home defense fleet from Luna Base, her ships now openly displaying the advanced technology that had been hidden for a century. The deception was no longer necessary as humanity had established itself as the dominant military power in the galaxy. But the infrastructure of secrecy remained active, preparing for threats that might emerge from unexplored regions of space. The quantum fold networks that connected human territories extended far beyond the borders of known space, reaching into dimensions that most species could not even perceive. Scout ships explored parallel realities and alternate timelines, searching for threats that might require another century of preparation to counter. Humanity had learned that the universe was vast and full of dangers that required constant vigilance. Tom reflected on the transformation of human society as he toured the bridge of his flagship, a vessel that officially did not exist until 6 months ago. The crew that surrounded him included humans who had been legally dead for decades, their sacrifice enabling the greatest military deception in galactic history. They had given up their identities, their families, and their former lives to serve. As humanity's secret guardians, the new galactic constitution established principles that the Dominion had never considered: the right of species to self-determination, the protection of primitive worlds from exploitation, and the collective defense against external threats. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy but had rescued it from predators who viewed other intelligent life as resources to be harvested. The hunters had become protectors, though they remained ready to resume their role as apex predators if necessary. In hidden facilities across 1,000 worlds. New projects began as humanity prepared for whatever threats might emerge from the unknown regions of space. The Dark Armada continued to grow in secret, its true numbers known only to those who commanded it. The galaxy believed it had seen humanity's full strength, but the species that had spent a century hiding their capabilities would never again reveal all their secrets.